will convene an executive session, a workshop, and a regular meeting on Tuesday, May 7, 2019, at 4:55 p.m., 5:30 p.m., and at 6 p.m. in the Commission Chambers on the second floor, Brownsville City Hall, Old Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. We will begin with executive session.
Motion to move to
Exec-
executive
oh,
session.
may I
I'm
read?
sorry, you have to read it
Yes.
first. I apologize.
Executive session 8, consultation with attorney pursuant to section 551.0712 of the Texas Government Code on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter. Executive session B, attorney consultation pursuant to section 551.071 Texas Government Code to receive legal advice and counsel in connection with the city's rights, duties, privileges, and obligations related to the collective bargaining labor agreement between the city and the duly recognized bargaining agent for the city's law enforcement personnel, the Brownsville Police Officers Association. Executive session C, consultation with attorney pursuant to section 551.0712 of the Texas Government Code on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter. Executive session D, consultation with attorney pursuant to section 551.0712 of the Texas Government Code on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter.
Motion to move to executive session.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's a forest.
Save a tree, man.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Elizabeth Walker,
William Yoon.
and we're in the City Manager's Office. The theme for the work session this evening is the City of Brownsville policy on board and commission member appointment and eligibility. And very simply, what we'd like to do this evening is to review what you've done as a commission on the subject, what we've done as staff to implement what it is you've given to us, and then to figure out what we will do next together. What we've found as part of this process is two opportunities. One is to identify a more efficient appointment process and also a more effective appointments. So to review what it is that this commission has done, on October 2nd, 2018, the commission approved a policy, and in that policy it's expressly identified that appointments shall be made twice a year. And so then staff took that charge and examined all constituted boards of the city, culled those that are active and those that receive public or open appointments. We identified that some of those boards, their formational documents expressly identified December as the term expiration date. And so in compliance then with this policy that appointments shall be made twice a year, if we already have December as known, then we identified June as the halfway point through the year. That should be then the other time to satisfy twice a year. We then ran the numbers as far as the number of terms that would be affected. If we were to assume that those that are presently in their appointments would hold over from January until June, such time that their appointment can be considered, and then those that are in effect from June until December, when the next window of opportunity would allow for them to be considered, we found that they're actually fairly equally weighted. About as many appointments are up in June as are in December. So there's about as much work to be done at each time of the year. So as part of our project implementation, after we examined the active boards, one of the things that we did to dovetail on this initiative is we refreshed the digital application so that applicants now can submit one application, identify all the boards of interest to them, and then that application will be retained on file for a full year so that it can be reconsidered at the subsequent window of opportunity. So if they apply for June, it can still be considered in December. We did this so that to ease the burden on the applicant, because we mean to reward volunteerism. We mean to make it easier for those who intend to serve our city. Another initiative that was kind of born of this, providing clarity to the applicant process. The next subsequent step would then to be provide clarity in their service once they're on the board. So what we mean to do next is, now that we know that June and December would be the appointment times, Soon after those appointment times, then we would have orientation sessions for those who are newly appointed, or maybe to serve as just a reminder for all those who are currently serving on a board. And we can touch on subjects general to all board service, but it could identify Open Meetings Act requirements. We could certainly update on Chapter 38 ethics requirements that are now imposed.
With that being said, we feel that everything that we've done aligns with this purpose of the policy that was implemented, which was the board appointment process. As the policy states that to encourage qualified individuals to serve on city boards, to increase the information available to the public regarding service on city boards, to make the commission aware of qualified individuals who may be willing to serve on the city boards. In doing so, we have some benefits of practicing the board appointment policy. In doing so, we'll be able to increase availability of information on the city website. We'll be able to practice policy implementation. We'll be able to come up with a systematic board appointment process, and we'll be able to improve user experience on applicant end.
So what we need at this point going forward is your feedback. Tonight, this is a work session, this is not an action item, but we'd like to hear from you how it is that you envision June and December. Would it be enough for you that all the applications received for June and December are included in your agenda packets for individual study? Would you like staff to prepare work sessions immediately preceding your June and December appointment meeting? We could even set it up such that there could be round-robin interviews if you'd like to be able to just talk with each of the applicants individually. Please let us know how it is that we can best equip you for the selection process that would happen in June and then later again in December.
Very good. I think the easiest thing is for all of us to, in one fashion or another, whether it be by email or something, I think the guiding light on this one is you need to involve as many people in the community as you possibly can. You have to make informed decisions as to the people that are qualified. And the more inclusive you are, the better off you are. And the more information we have. So I suspect that, that would be my take on, in order for it to be effective, as we said back in October, that we get as much information, I think, from y'all so that you can feed us. Because having too many meetings, it sort of just waters down the response. But if we have enough information and we want to have some sort of meeting, but it would be nice to meet the candidates also at some particular point. If they have enough interest to serve on a city board, then hopefully they have the time to give to us if we wanted to visit with them. That would be my take. Okay? Anyway, let's work on this, and very good work. I appreciate it. This is a good effort that I think all of us have been wanting to get done for some period of time. Okay?
Well, thank you, Mayor. We'll kick off the digital initiative with the refreshed application, and then we'll bring those applicants to you in June.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that.
Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Let's remain standing for the prayer. Father God, we declare our love for you tonight. We thank you for the many blessings we have in the city of Brownsville, and help us to remember to be grateful for them. And Lord, we thank you for our mayor and commissioners here tonight. We ask you to lead and guide them, help them to receive the revelation they need for you to move forward for the city of Brownsville. And Lord, whatever changes may happen here, we ask that you help us to move forward with unity and respect in all circumstances. And we thank you so much for that in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Next, we have the mayor's activity update.
None at this time, thank you.
Commissioner's activity update.
Mayor, I'm going to start off. First of all, I want to thank everybody that came out for the municipal elections this past weekend. whether you were in the victorious, runoff, or in a loss. Thank you to everybody that participated. We did see an increase in numbers as far as the city turnout. So that's something positive. As we go into a runoff within the next 45 days, we ask the people to please, we're not telling you who to vote for, we're just asking you to please exercise your right to vote, come out and show that this community is an active community and it is participating within its active process. Thank you.
I would like to thank all of the different city departments for participating with Ciclovia last weekend. It was a great evening of fun and celebration downtown. I know restaurants had 4 or 5 bikes parked out front of their places, and there were thousands of people downtown, which is always a good thing for our community. So I want to thank everyone for coming out and remind everyone that we'll be continuing Ciclovia periodically. Try it out. It's a different event, and it's free. And I think you'll have smiles on your faces all evening long.
Okay.
I just want to thank the public and the voters, especially who came out to vote, especially in District 2. I am so humbled and grateful, although this is not my swearing-in ceremony. I am absolutely overjoyed and with every bit of my heart grateful for being reelected this Saturday to the city of Brownsville. Words can't express how special that is to me to know that I have the trust of the public and the confidence of the public. And I want to tell you that I will never let you down, and every decision I make here is for the people of Brownsville and for the community of Brownsville and for the future of Brownsville. And with every bit of my heart, I am grateful and humbled and honored to have not had to see a runoff. And I want to thank all of the candidates and the city of Brownsville, and especially the Cameron County Elections Department, who had a flawless election cycle. I want to thank all of the people of Brownsville who came out and voted. And more than anything, I just want to tell you how much it means to me to be written into the history book of Brownsville for being one of your city commissioners, and that it's not something I take lightly. It's not something that I do for power or for gain. It's something I do so that in the future, long, when I'm long gone, somebody will say that there was this one woman who loved her community so much that she gave everything she had to make sure that it succeeded. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. City Manager?
City Manager's update.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. One update. It's about hurricane season, and it's coming up. So June 1st, that's when the season begins. So in light of that, and it ends November 30th, so it is a long season. The city of Brownsville is being proactive and is providing sandbags at our sandbag drive-through pickup on Friday, May 17th and Saturday, May 18th at the industrial park located at G-Big Circle. So we want to just invite the public to take advantage of this resource that they have and stock up and be ready for the season. That's all I have today. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Noel.
Next, we have a proclamation for the Elder Abuse Awareness Month. Would you please step forward?
Thank you for being here. The following is a proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, designating the month of May 2019 as Elder Abuse Prevention Month. And whereas the elderly and disabled are valued members of our community, and it is shared responsibility of the residents of Brownsville, Texas, to ensure that they live with dignity and safety. Whereas through their wisdom and experience, the elderly have enriched our lives with contributions to the general welfare of Brownsville, Texas, by helping to preserve customs and traditions of many people from diverse backgrounds. And whereas by combating abuse and empowering the elderly and the disabled in our community, the quality of life will be improved for all senior citizens, allowing them to continue to live as independently as possible, adding to their overall well-being. whereas abuse of the elderly and the people with disabilities in domestic and institutional settings is a widespread problem affecting hundreds of thousands of people across the country. In 2008, there were 116,578 completed cases of elderly and disabled persons abuse in Texas, of which 84,439 were confirmed. And whereas every citizen can make a difference in our community by recognizing and reporting the signs of abuse or neglect of the elderly and disabled to promote a culture of respect and safety. Now therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby designate the month of May 2019 as Elder Abuse Prevention Month, and further call upon all the residents of Brownsville to work together to help eradicate the abuse and neglect of people who are elderly or have disabilities. And it's done the 7th day of May 2019, signed Antonio Martinez, the Mayor of Brownsville, and the City Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys very much. Good. Let's let her say a few words there.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lupita Ramos. I'm the APS supervisor for the Brownsville area. With me, I have Ms. Martha Ruff, Ms. Adriana Colesio, and Ms. Martina Rendon. We have other workers, but they couldn't be here today. I just want to thank everybody and just to remind to please call anytime you suspect any abuse, neglect, or exploitation on anyone that's 65 years or older, or anybody that's 18 years older and have a disability. You can call the 1-800-252-5400. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Jubilee Brownsville Varsity Boys Golf Team. If you would please step forward.
You guys, you look too young.
A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing and honoring Jubilee Brownsville Varsity Boys Golf Team. Whereas Jubilee Brownsville was established in 2014 and is located at 4955 Pablo Kissel Boulevard in Brownsville, Texas. Whereas Jubilee Brownsville's mission is to provide a nurturing community focused on leadership and educational excellence. Whereas the Jubilee Brownsville Varsity Boys Golf Team includes Jaime Nava, Robert Rubalcaba, Derek Lara, Ramiro Torres, and Fabian Covarrubias. The team is led by Coach Isaac Gonzalez. Whereas athletic activities have a profound impact on students and their communities by providing opportunities to build relationships, learn new skills and disciplines as they come together in defeat and celebrate wins. And whereas the Jubilee Brownsville Boys Titans Varsity Golf Team bested Leadership Prep School, Corinth Classical Academy, and Basis San Antonio Shavano to become the TCSAAL State Champions on Monday, April 1st, 2019 at the Landa Park Golf Course in New Braunfels, Texas, and making it the third consecutive state title. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city, and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby recognize and honor Jubilee Brownsville Varsity Boys Golf Team and further encourage our residents to celebrate and honor these student athletes and their parents on their accomplishment. Done on this, the 7th day of May, 2019. Congratulations, guys.
Are we going to have someone say a few words up there? There we go.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
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 Congratulations,
Congratulations.
guys.
Congratulations.
We're very
Let's-
proud of
Yeah,
you.
why don't you all stand over here, right next to your speaker. He's all nervous, okay? So make him unnervous. Good job.
Thank you, Mayor Tony Martinez. All commissioners, thank you, especially Joel Monguia and Ricardo Longoria for sponsoring this proclamation. Again, this was a very, good season for us going in for our third year. The boys worked very hard, especially going up to the state tournament. The seniors knew what to expect. Jaime Nava, Derek Lara, Robert Ubagava. The other boys, fed off of that, so it was very good going in. Bringing home the third state title, what an accomplishment for this school, and everything they do for the school, their community, it's great, and I'm very proud of them.
Well, Brownsville's very proud of them too, okay? We're
Yes.
all champions, okay,
Yes.
guys? Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next, we have consent agenda items, but we will remove letter M.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries with the exception of item number N.
M. Next, we have public hearings. Public hearing number 6, public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2017-063-S-MA to grant a major amendment allowing a mobile vendor food court, a general retail 4C use, and general retail G 4CG for a portion of block 39 and 40, Los Ebanos Property Subdivision, Share 22, Espiritu Santo Grant, located at 835 North Expressway.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. This first case is for a major amendment for a previously issued specific use permit. To the north, there's going to be a pawn shop and commercial businesses. To the east, there's hotels, commercial businesses. And to the south, single-family dwelling, commercial business. To the west, there's hotel, single-family dwelling, and commercial business. So this property, the base zoning is general retail, 4th commercial G, and it does have that previously issued specific use permit for a mobile vendor food court, a food truck park. Along the expressway, it's going to be, on this side, it's going to be general retail, and on the other side, it will be industrial use, either light industrial or medium industrial. To the south, there's going to be dwelling. There were 18 mailouts and 0 written opposition. Here is the site plan. It will involve the same amount of food truck pads as the previously approved one. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use plan, and the Planning and Zoning Commission supports this major amendment to allow a mobile vendor food court in general retail G, 4CG, with the condition that the property must comply with all city codes and regulations as determined through the site plan review process.
Okay, anyone here on this issue? If not, I'll entertain a motion to close.
Motion to close public hearing?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Next, we have public hearing number 7, public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2018-037-S to allow apartments in Apartment A use in dwelling HDH for Lot 1, Block 1, Villa La Paz subdivision, located at 265 Milpa Verde.
This property is zoned dwelling H, and they are asking for a specific use permit to allow apartments. In all directions, you're going to find single-family dwelling. And also to the south, along Milpa Verde, you're going to find commercial businesses as well. Here's a zoning map. Most of the area is commercial, is dwelling, although you will find commercial uses, retail uses along Milpa Verde, and some apartment uses in the area. There were 47 mailouts and 0 written opposition. Here's the site plan. The request is, the request is not consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use plan, and the Planning and Zoning Commission supports the specific use permit to allow apartments, an Apartment A use in dwelling H, DH, with the condition that the property must comply with all city codes and regulations as determined through the site plan review process. So a little further history on this case. It previously went to the Planning and Zoning Commission last year. That's why it has an older number. To get Apartment H, the apartments was denied. Instead, they recommended to get a specific use permit because it does not meet the future land use plan requirements. But with the specific use permit and the plan they have presented, it has been approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and staff does support it.
Okay. Anyone here on this issue?
Close public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we have public hearing number 8, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2019-010-S to allow a commercial use, a general retail 4C use in apartment GAG for 1 acre tract of land comprised of 2 tracts, tract 1 being an approximate of 0.5 acres out of Lot 1, Block S, Brownsville Land and Improvement Company subdivision, Share 22, Espiritu Santo Grant, tract 2 being the east half of a certain 1 acre tract of land out of Lot 1, Block S, Brownsville Land and Improvement Company subdivision, Cameron County, Texas, located at 25 Boca Chica Boulevard, Brownsville, Texas.
This property is approximately 1 acre. It's currently zoned Apartment G. In the surrounding area, you're going to find single-family dwelling in all directions, and along Military Highway in Boca Chica in this area, you're going to find commercial businesses as well. Here's the zoning map. So the property is zoned Apartment G. To the north and to the south, there's going to be commercial uses along Boca Chica and Military Highway. Beyond that, you're going to find dwelling. There are 26 mailouts and 0 written opposition. Here is the site plan. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use plan, and the Planning and Zoning Commission supports the specific use permit to allow a commercial use in Apartment G, AG, with the condition that the property must comply with all city codes and regulations as determined through the site plan review process.
Anyone here on this issue?
Motion to close public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All those in favor, I'm sorry. Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item,
I
please.
don't even
Public
care
hearing
anything.
number 9. Public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2019-011-S to allow wireless communication facility, a general retail 4C use in light industrial J, 7CJ for a 1.67 acre tract of land in Lot 1, RA Leak Estate, partition share 22nd, Espiritu Santo Grant, Cameron County, Texas, located near the corner of Fish Hatchery Road and Expressway 77.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Commission. This is the subject property aerial map. To the north and to the east, we have a mix of single-family dwellings in addition to commercial businesses. To the west, there's undeveloped land, single-family dwellings, and to the south is undeveloped land, single-family dwellings, and commercial businesses. This is the zoning map of the property. The subject property is zone light industrial 7CJ, and the proposed use is for a wireless communication facility with a minimum of general retail 4C requirement with conditions. So is some general information on the minimum requirements for wireless communication facilities. Telecommunications ordinance allows WCFs by right in general retail use 4C through heavy industrial use 9C, subject to a minimum of 500 feet distance from a residential structure. For stealth WCF antennas, they must meet a minimum requirement of 100 feet from any residential structure. WCF height, including antenna array, cannot exceed 135 feet. The minimum setbacks are 25 feet for the front, 30 feet from any street, and 5 feet for the rear and sides. It requires the minimum structural capacity and space to accommodate certain number of carrier antennas on an equipment, and also additional development standards may apply, for example, landscaping and fencing. Specific use permit applicability. The proposed use is allowed under the current base zoning, which is 7CJ, at a maximum height of 135 feet. However, application does not meet the maximum height and the required 100 feet distance from the property, from the adjacent property. Specific use permit refers to the uses that a zoning ordinance would only permit with added conditions when reviewed for a particular situation on a property. The distance must be reviewed from the residential property line and the height. Authority derives from the zoning ordinance that specifically authorizes it. and this process does not change the base zoning of any given property. This is a site plan. As you can see by the denoted triangle off to the center and the left, that is a proposed location for the antenna facilities. This is the elevation for the tower. I would like to note that there is a structural note on this plan that actually states that the structural calculations would be prepared by others. Contractor will coordinate with A and B representative to obtain a copy. So no such documentation was submitted to our office. For a timeline on the case, the SUP application was submitted to the Planning and Development Services Department on February 15, 2019. On March 6, the application was withdrawn by the applicant. On April 4, 2019, the SUP was tabled by the Planning and Zoning with a recommendation to request a variance for a minimum land spacing and a minimum height requirement to the BOA. Both variances were approved by the Board of Adjustment on May 1, 2019. An SUP for a 150 feet tower with 10 feet lightning rod was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission on May 2nd of 2019. City staff did not recommend approval of either the SUP or the variances. For your situational awareness, this is a map that actually depicts other antennas in the vicinity, on the 1 mile vicinity. No collocation information was submitted. 11 mailouts were issued, and there was 1 written protest received. So this is a map of the protested case. As depicted by the blue circles, those are all the property owners that actually signed this petition to protest. Shaded by the yellow, you will see the actual area within the 200 feet. Then they compose a 20.57% that is required, or actually it's required 20%. So to provide a little bit more information on protested cases, the zoning ordinance under section 348-34 speaks about they're applicable to ordinance amendments and to official zoning atlas and related matters. A qualified protest against an amendment requires the favorable votes from at least 6 city commission members. Qualified protest is a written protest of at least 20% of the property owners immediately adjoining the lots of land extending 200 feet from the property petitioning the rezoning. Staff does not support the specific use permit to allow a wireless communication facility in Industrial J due to safety considerations and incompatible use, aesthetic, and visual concerns. So the safety considerations were based on the fact that no structural design, analysis, specification, and calculations have been submitted as part of the specific use, nor as part of the BOA application. Adjacent, again, is a little enlarged, the note that I spoke about earlier, that actually portrays the information, saying that we will receive this information at a later time. We never did. Incompatible uses. The location does not leave adequate buffering spaces for the proposed uses between the residential use and the proposed use for this antenna. And there's also aesthetic and visual concerns on behalf of staff. The proposed location is fronting the North Expressway and the intended use is mainly commercial. This is the entryway to our city, and as Brownsville is heavily investing on attracting retail, this is the first thing you see coming into the commercial corridor for Brownsville. The proposed location is near the main entrance to a residential subdivision, which also is a big concern. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval and to allow this wireless communication facility in Light Industrial J. The request is generally consistent with a comprehensive plan and future land use plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone here on this issue? I think we got some folks coming up.
So staff does not recommend, right? No?
No.
Thank you.
Have
I have my concerns. If you have a
Please
business,
state
I don't
your
care if
name.
it's a dollar store, a restaurant.
I'm sorry, she's,
Please
sorry?
state your name, ma'am. Your
Oh,
name.
okay. My name is Leticia Garzoria. I'm a community nurse, and I'm also concerned about getting more activity in business. You've got to provide your fair share in order to get business coming your way. It cannot be a one-sided deal. You open up a wireless communication system, you open up a restaurant, you open up a dollar store, you open up anything that you want to, but you don't provide facilities for the public. That is not correct. And I believe that's some of the things that need to be looked at, because there's no bathrooms, there's no washrooms. You want to go to a place, you want to spend some time there and shop. It's normal. How can you do something if there's not facilities to take care of the public? The public needs to have as much right as you do to make money. And if there's not that, there's not a connection here. So as much as I like business and I like to shop, and I do, I don't hear anybody talking about this.
Gabriel. Okay.
And
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Mr.
oh, okay.
Sorry.
And I think it should be a concern, as well as these food vendors.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This item is for the wireless facility?
Yes, for a bathroom. Yeah, I understand. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, wireless facility is like an antenna?
A cell tower.
A cell tower?
Okay, nobody goes in there at all?
No, ma'am.
It's not
Just the people that.
It's just a tower for transmission.
There's no room for
Okay,
anybody
I'm
to go in
thinking
it.
it's a wireless communications place.
No.
No,
but-
I was gonna say, I'm sorry, it's.
Thank you.
It's to improve cell service.
Okay.
But it's near home.
Thank you, Letty.
But that's my concern, even though it doesn't
Okay.
apply here, but there's not enough bathrooms to take care of the clients.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. Are you, well, there's two other folks.
Hello, my name is Gilberto Hernandez, and I am one of the residents that is somewhere on the blue dot there.
Right.
And that is one of our concerns is, yes, the aesthetic look. You drive into the valley, you want to see palm trees. You drive into Brownsville, you don't want to see a 160-foot antenna being the beacon for our city. The other are the safety concerns that were mentioned of the proximity to one of our neighbors' homes. And it just, imagine walking out in the morning, Commissioner Benny's, I know you're part of that precinct, and imagine if you walked out, because that's my daily morning, is I walk out with my puppy, and I'm gonna see a 160-foot tower right behind my front door neighbor's house. That's one thing. There are safety concerns that others are gonna bring up due to the wireless communications and cancers that it may cause, even though, you know, we always find out things 40 years down the road or 50 years down the road that this is what caused it. The other, as someone said earlier, I'm not gonna let the city, or I'm not gonna let the people of Brownsville down. And I think that was you, Commissioner. And I'm speaking not just on my behalf, but all of those blue dots that signed that petition, that we don't want this wireless antenna to be there. Move it somewhere else. I'm sure it'll still work. And so we plead to you to take into consideration our plea. The 100-foot, I mean, it's gonna be really close to that neighbor's house. You know, just so many things that, you know, that we're passionate about. We moved out right north of the city because we wanted to be in the city, but be in the country. And now we're gonna have a big old antenna. There's other places for that antenna, and it should not be there.
Okay,
Can I share
appreciate it.
something
Thank
with
you very
before-
much.
Before you leave,
Sure.
I want to share with you something that happened in my neighborhood. The city commission voted against it, and it was denied by the city. We were in turn sued by the applicant, and they won in court. So in speaking to the neighbors and in trying to explain to them that the city, I went out there and talked to the folks and told them, look, this antenna's gonna go up, and it's not the city. We got sued, here's the paperwork, just to let you know. No, you guys must have done something on the, and, so something like that. So the possibility, even though the city commission denies it tonight, there is a possibility that they might take it to court and it might appear in your front, or in your backyard. Just to let you know, because it's already happened before in the past.
Well, thank you for that information. And it's true, everybody's got that right to sue, and just like we have our right today to be here and before you, and for you to speak on our behalf.
Well, thank you for expressing your opinion.
Thank you.
Anyone else here on this issue?
I can say,
sorry.
just to interject really quick, that this commission has been very protective of the neighborhoods and homes that do have these, because we have hurricane season, we have all kinds of things that come, and I will give the commission a lot of credit for that.
I just want to ask, have any of you Googled the health effects of cell phone towers?
Yeah.
It's very scary, and the statistics of the people that are that close to them receiving cancer, I mean, it's out there. We Googled it a couple of months ago, and I'm wanting to go buy my own meter to check my own house, even though we don't have one that close. But to go against the variances, the standards, the distance that you normally have from a residence, that would bother me. Just
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else?
Hi, good evening. My name is Iris Perales, and we live right behind, on the yellow section, actually.
We are the closest neighbors there.
That's us right here. 3%. No. That's us right there. This is my mother, and I want to thank the staff, first of all, because they made really valid points. They pretty much spoke for us. Our biggest concern is the proximity, the closeness of it, and the safety. We're just kind of trying to foresee what's going to happen. There's a lot of scenarios that could happen that we don't know, we can't predict. But first one is hurricanes. Where is the antenna going to fall? Either way, it falls to us. It's a safety hazard. It falls to the access road, which is right here, which is very highly trafficked area. It's an access road to the expressway. So it's very busy, actually. There's construction going on right now. In the morning, the traffic is so backed up. We don't know what time of day and if it falls, and hopefully it doesn't fall. But that's just one of the concerns. The biggest one is the safety of the people and of us and my mom that lives there. And everybody that voted against it, it's just in a very nice, spacious residential neighborhood, and we just wouldn't want to see that antenna there.
Mi nombre es Rosalinda Perales. Pues nosotros vivimos ahí. Es un lugar, ¿verdad?, de pues alto riesgo. Hay mucha gente caminando, hay mucho tráfico, expressway, al lado del expressway. Sabemos que aquí tenemos el área de los huracanes, las tormentas. Siempre estamos con eso, ¿verdad? Entonces llega a suceder algo, ¿qué es lo que va a pasar, verdad? Tenemos que pensar en la seguridad de la comunidad, la seguridad de nosotros, porque sí es muy, muy peligroso. Hay muchos lugares, sí se necesitan antenas, ¿verdad? Pero ahí alrededor nosotros tenemos suficientes. Hay muchos lugares donde pueden instalar antenas, donde no está poblado, ¿verdad? Donde no le causen daño a la gente, a nadie. Y también pues se vería feo, ¿verdad? Pero más que todo es la seguridad.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Hello, my name is Manuel Perales. I'm her son. And just like what she mentioned, it has to do a lot with the safety issue. I was just mentioning, I mean, there is a possibility, that maybe that antenna may fall. I was just more concerned on the maybe debris of the antenna. High winds can pick something up and throw it anywhere, pretty much. So that's one of the concerning issues. A problem that we had actually talked about before on a previous meeting last week, it was lightning strikes. Even though there is nothing very high around there, We do have a couple of trees, and we have actually been struck by lightning there. There's a mesquite tree right behind our property there, and within maybe a year or two, there was another lightning strike in the front of our property. So, you know, now imagine a big structure like that. You know, it will probably get another strike around there. So, needless to say, it could pretty much strike there, but anybody could be around the area anyways as well. Another thing that was just mentioned was the cancer statistic. That's something, that's information that's there already.
Bless you.
Bless you. That is known, so we would actually have that antenna right in front of us pretty much. So that's another thing that we wanted to talk about. And like she said, there is other locations across the expressway, you know, even maybe a little further, bigger locations actually. So I don't know what the reason why they're very persistent on this particular location is. But there is other areas that are close by too, but not as close to this residential area. So that was what we
Thank you
wanted to
very
say.
much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Carmen Almaraz, and I live next to them, the next yellow block. And my concern is, I have a child with ADHD. He's already slow. I have done several studies. As ignorant as I am, I know that in the long run, it still will affect my child. He goes outside, anything can fall, malfunction. It doesn't have to be a hurricane, a wind, anything can happen. Who's gonna take care of me and my child? How long is it gonna take? My concerns are, it will affect him in the long run, 20, 30 years, but it will affect him. And that's why I don't want that. I did mention it on the first one that it is a hazardous because we have a halfway house. A lot of people come with children and they pass there Saturdays and Sundays. Anything can happen. They can get a setback, and they're in their right minds, but they have a setback, something can happen. Who's gonna take care of them? That's why I don't want that pole there, or the tower there. There is a lot of things, and it's not from one day to the next, 1 month, a year. It's gonna build up. Until somebody gets hurt, until somebody actually sues somebody, then that's when they start realizing that we did a wrong. That's why I, myself, and my neighbors do not want those.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Very well
you.
said. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Do I hear much? I'm sorry, is there?
Ken McKay with the Baker Donaldson Law Firm. I know there's one more neighbor, but she said she wanted to have rebuttal after me, so I understand that. I represent AT&T, who is the applicant for this specific use permit. As you may know, for this particular application, there are really two governing laws. Well, obviously, the first is the City of Brownsville ordinances. And so this particular application has had somewhat of an arduous history. We first appeared before the Planning and Zoning Commission a month ago, and their sentiment was that because we acknowledged that our application did not comply with the height restriction or the spacing restriction, that we first go to the Board of Adjustment and present our evidence before it. Last week, I went before the Board of Adjustment after we submitted an application for 2 variances. And at all 3 of these hearings that I'll reference in this chronology, neighbors spoke in opposition. But the Board of Adjustment granted the variances on both height and spacing. And so we then went with the variances in hand, which made our application compliant with the Brownsville city ordinances. We went to the Planning and Zoning Commission again last week, and the Planning and Zoning Commission ruled in favor of our application for a specific use permit. So as we stand before you today, we can say that this application is fully compliant with all of Brownsville ordinances because of the variances that have been given us. The second body of law that this application is governed by is the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996. And it says a couple of things which are relevant to this application, and in fact, some of the things that we've heard already tonight. This, and just for the citation, it's 42 USC 332(7)B. One of the things that it specifically prohibits is a local jurisdiction from denying a cell tower application on the basis of alleged health effects. So as a product of federal law, that is precluded by the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996. With regard to the issue of aesthetics and what we've heard on other occasions, property value, the Federal Telecommunications Act says that a decision by a local government or instrumentality to deny a request to place or construct or modify a personal wireless service facility related to aesthetics must be supported by substantial evidence. And that's the substantial evidence standard is not met by general concerns about issues like this. So there has to be, under this act, there has to be evidence that would be convincing substantial evidence to support that. So those are the two really governing areas of law, and I think that's probably what with the history of Commissioner Longoria referred to. Those are the two areas of law that we have to comply with. Now, this specific request, the reason for the location is they're fairly numerous. Number one is the basic reason is that in this area it is dramatically underserved by signal. So not just in AT&T, but other LTE carriers, literally can't get a signal in that area. From a signal standpoint, what it also means is that in the areas north and south of this location, the network is at max capacity. And so although we have signal in the north and south, this is north and south of this served area, the network is basically desperate to have some offloading of that capacity because of the concern of a dropped 911 call. And so the first reason why would we need a cell tower located in this area is for a lack of signal. And obviously that has implications related to 911 and otherwise. The other reasons are these. The Border Patrol has selected this location to locate its own set of equipment that they won't even disclose to us, which is part of their immigration program, and they have selected this location as a location where they will put their equipment. That's for a network that only they use and for the specific use of their immigration program. The other thing I will note, two other things I'll note is that on this particular tower would be a part of FirstNet, which is a network that is used exclusively by first responders, that is fire, police, ambulance, that is dedicated exclusively for the use of first responders. And so that's the point. I will note that it is always AT&T's first choice to try to find a location that complies with all of the ordinances, the city ordinances, jurisdiction ordinances, to the best they can, and only a last choice to put it in a location which does not on its face. And again, today we are standing before you with variances so that we do comply, but we understand the concerns, and I think the question remains that has been posed is why pick this spot? Why pick this spot given its location and proximity and so forth? And the answer is there is no other spot. We do we do the ring analysis, and so we say, okay, where can we put this that will serve this demand for cell signals, and we've done that. Then we've eliminated all that where it doesn't work. We've limited all the ones that where we can't acquire a lease. We've limited all the ones where the signal is, and so this is the only option. And so, although there may be some places that someone could point to, okay, that's a property for sale, that's a property for sale, I promise you, we've exhausted that because it would always be our first choice. In fact, today on one of the consent items, we have another cellular tower that was approved that met all those requirements because that's always our first choice. The bottom line here is the reason why we're here, the reason why we've gone through this process, the reason why we're gone through the variance process is because there is no other choice. The industry has indicated that over the next 5 years, we anticipate that there's going to be an increase in demand for cell signal of 42% annually. So what's going to happen is that we're going to have an increased amount of demand, and there's going to be an increased amount of cell signal required. The other thing that this tower allows is that in addition to FirstNet and in addition to the Border Patrol, we will co-locate 5 other LTE carriers, meaning that if this is allowed by this body, then it will reduce the number of additional cell towers that will be requested in the city of Brownsville because it will have the capacity to co-locate other carriers in the area. One of the things that we note is that if you look at the location, you'll see that on one whole side it faces the expressway. So we've done everything we can to try to locate it at a place where the least amount of effect could be. I will say there's been some concern, although we're past the spacing, we've got a variance on that. I will say that with regard to the concern about the tower falling, the tower is will be constructed so that it collapses on itself. And so in the event something happened, now these are very heavy towers. If something does happen, the expectation would be that it will collapse on itself and not fall over. So that's that's the sum and substance of why we're here. Again, we don't take this lightly. We don't move forward with this unless there is no other option, and there is no other option. And the number one reason for doing this itself is safety, so that we have the ability to provide signal for 911 calls. We have the ability to provide signal for the first responder network and for Border Patrol. And I think that given the fact that we now have already gone before 2 boards in Brownsville and have had that scrutinized, hopefully that and have received their approval is some indication that there is validity to what's going on, and that every effort has been made to not only to locate this in the least obtrusive location we can, but also I will say personally that I have extended an invitation at every time I've spoken to the neighbors to call me, to seek information from me, and in fact some have actually done that. I don't think that in those conversations I've had with them I've changed their mind, but I think that I have explained to them the lengths that we've gone to make sure that we've minimized the effect to the extent possible with this. And in light of the variances we've been given and the efforts gone to, we just respectfully request that our application be approved. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are, and also probably have exceeded my time limit. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Graciela Villarreal.
My name is Ricardo Villarreal.
This is my husband. I have a copy of a PDF document with facts and resources, along with pictures about the safety risks and how towers reduce the value of properties. You want to pass it on? First of all, we are here opposing the basis that the requested permit and variances do not meet the requirements of the development standards for this item. It does not meet the setback of 100 feet between the tower nearest the neighbor's property line, and the height with the lighting rod of 160 feet. While this might be an inconvenience for the applicant, it would not constitute a hardship for which relief may be granted under the ordinance of Section 3338-34. Applicants' time might be critical, but they should have plenty of time to give their best efforts to negotiate these alternative sites. Besides not meeting the standards, cell towers, fires, and collapses are rare, but they do occur as a result. Keep in mind that Brownsville is subject to hurricanes and hard winds. Okay, fires have resulted from construction errors, overheated equipment, improper cooling, and typically frequent lightning strikers, especially if there is a faulty grounding. The ignition of the vinyl coating of coaxial cables within the tower can bring flames shooting out the top of the tower. Besides fire, other causes for collapse include construction errors, wind, anchor failure, and aircraft. Applicants said that their tower are designated to drop near the tower base, but never said that they knew of no fires or collapses of their own towers, and so the likelihood of damage to neighboring property unlikely. Still, with a fire or tower failure in high winds, metal debris and sparks might blow significant distances, which is why setback requirements in the city ordinance should be respected in this case. Why take unnecessary risk with people's health or lives? Another factor that we have in Brownsville is, okay, I mentioned the hurricanes, okay? AT&T might give your reasons why they need the tower for their business, but they don't have to go home and live with the safety issues as we do 24/7. Could you imagine a lawsuit or problems if something falls down and injures someone in the community around our neighborhood, passing vehicles or pedestrians, as we do have a high increase of pedestrians there from the halfway house? We reassure you will give us that what will reassure you all that in the near future or in the future, these factors will not happen. Where is Border Patrol contract? Where's the evidence? They state that this is their priority client. Okay, where is it? It has not been addressed. It's been addressed, but there's no evidence. We would like, I don't know if y'all have seen a contract. It's just word of mouth, but where is the contract? I'm sure Border Patrol can seek other carriers in the need, if they are in need of this service. Why that particular and unique spot? It does not meet the standards, city ordinance. Not only that, I have in various occasions provided them. In fact, you know what, let me go back. Let me ask, is Ricardo Robles present? No. Okay, this is the gentleman that I spoke to. Where is this? I don't understand the map. Can someone help me with the map, please?
So here's the expressway.
Mm-hmm. Where is the Resaca?
Here is the Resaca right here behind. So
It'd be this one.
Can you?
So this property.
All right, well, there's two properties right next, here you.
Hi. There's two properties right here. There's a trailer
Trailer, carrier.
carrier that's located right there, and there's another one right next to it, which is a little bit smaller, about maybe 2 acres in it. And as you can see, it's quite a distance from our neighborhood. As my wife has mentioned, and all our neighbors are strongly against this. And we're not against progress for the city. We would like to see the city to continue growing, but we are against this for our neighborhood. There's also the issues as my other neighbors have mentioned, the beauty of Brownsville. I don't see any of you guys waking up in the morning seeing this big antenna right in front of you. And as you can see, we live right here. Our neighbors
does.
All these neighbors, go ahead.
I see an antenna every morning.
Oh,
I'm sorry?
I see an antenna every morning.
Okay.
Is it AT&T?
Oh, well. There you go. Well, anyways, we're strongly against this, and I hope that this committee will show their efforts and support us in this. You know, there's other areas within Brownsville that they can put it in. Brownsville's growing and it's hitting that way. So,
as a matter of fact, I'm sorry to interrupt. We do have Mr. Ricardo Flores here. This gentleman came from across, okay, and made an effort to be here today. He's one of the owners right next to that carrier where I'm giving other options to AT&T to install this antenna. There's 3 different options here, 3 different properties, and Mr. Robles is one of the owners. He is willing to lease this property to AT&T, just like the other carrier right next to the Resaca is willing to lease. I've got in contact with both of those carriers or property owners, and they are willing to lease the property. Why are they going through this trouble of not having the setback, the variances? Why? This property does not meet the requirements. Why there? When they have other options just very close by, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr.
Appreciate it.
Robles, señor Robles. Buenas noches, señora Graciela Villarreal.
Okay.
Si gusta decir su nombre.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Ricardo Robles Ochoa.
¿Usted es el dueño de la propiedad?
Sí, yo tengo una propiedad ahí, cerca de ahí de donde están hablando ahí. Es el lote 15. Es
La dirección es
5203.
Ajá, North Expressway, okay. Está enseguida de, vamos a decir, de la Quinta N. ¿Está dispuesto usted a rentar este local o venderlo?
No. Yo lo estoy vendiendo, pero depende de las condiciones, ¿verdad?, que haya. Pero lo tengo en venta. Pero no sé, me acabo de dar cuenta de esto y no sé cómo está todo.
Okay.
Let the record reflect that someone has testified that there are some other properties that may be available at the disposal of for the same purpose, so that we can at least have the record reflect everything that's being said. Mr. Robles, muchísimas gracias. Usted dice que esta propiedad está disponible para este mismo torre que estamos hablando, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Gracias. Muchísimas gracias.
¿Está buena la renta?
Okay, all right, yeah.
I have a question. Thank you. I have a question for city staff. Knowing that this was not supported by the city of Brownsville and the very well-educated and staff that we have, was this still, did Border Patrol at any time reach out to us and say this absolutely has to be done?
No, so no supported documentation to support the information that he's imparted verbally was received by our office. We did, however, check with our call center to ascertain that no calls were dropped in the area, and they reported none due to a lack of coverage.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else? We've kind of listened to a lot of folks.
Motion to close public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to deny?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to deny is approved. Thank you very much. I would suggest that if there's any other alternatives for AT&T as a good corporate neighbor, to see if they can reach out to whoever was here in front of the commission. You know, it's always nice to be able to work everybody's interest out. So we wish everybody the best of luck, but I can understand. I know the law and I understand the law, but I also understand the need for a neighborhood to have its voice. And I think it's good for all of us to get together and see how we can accommodate each other's needs. So I urge a counselor for AT&T to try to reach out and see if there's some other alternative, as opposed to going through litigation if that's what was intended. Okay, thank you very much. Next.
Next, we have public hearing number 10, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2019-020-CO to rezone from medium retail G, 3CG to apartment H, AH for a 2.738 acre tract out of a 13.25 acre tract out of the RB Renfro subdivision and an 8.0 acre tract of land adjacent to said Renfro subdivision, said 13.25 acre tract and 8.0 acre tract being the same conveyed to F.W. Wheeler by John Ferry and wife located at 2100 Laredo Road.
So this property is approximately 2.7 acres. It's currently zoned medium retail G. They're asking it to be rezoned to apartment H with a conditional overlay. So this is the aerial. To the north, there's going to be undeveloped land and some civic institutions. To the east is going to be commercial plazas and single-family dwellings. This map is a little out of date. The commercial plazas are right here, and restaurants. To the south, there's undeveloped land and single-family dwelling. And to the west, there's undeveloped land, single-family dwelling, and some commercial business. Here is the zoning map. As you can see along 802, there's going to be some retail uses and along Military. Once you get away from the main corridors, it's going to be apartments and then dwelling. There were 14 mailouts and 0 written protests submitted. The request is not consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan, but the Planning and Zoning Commission supports this rezoning from medium retail G, 3CG, to apartment H, AH-CO, with a conditional overlay to permit a maximum of 42 dwelling units. So the conditional overlay was added at the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Anyone here on this issue?
Hi, I'm Steve Gano. I'm partner and general counsel for the Drennan Company. We've made this application to develop our 2.73 acre tract. Yes, and it's really vacant land right now on all sides except for the commercial plaza that's right across the street. I met with Ms. Linder and in advance of the planning and zoning meeting, showed her our conceptual plan for it, and that we were willing to agree to a conditional overlay limiting us to 42 units. And on that basis, staff supported it with the conditional overlay to planning and zoning Planning and Zoning approved it with the conditional overlay unanimously. And so we are asking that the City Council approve it as well.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else? Okay.
Motion to close public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good luck. Item number 11.
Next, we have public hearing number 11, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2019-021 to rezone from dwelling Z, DZ to dwelling G, DG for Lot 8, Block 2, Houston Estates subdivision, a subdivision, Cameron County, Texas, located at 472 Cibolo Street.
This property is currently zoned dwelling Z. They're requesting dwelling G. So to the north is going to be undeveloped land and single-family dwelling, and as you'll see in a minute, it's outside of Brownsville's jurisdiction. To the east, south, and west, you're going to find the same, some single-family dwelling and undeveloped land. So here's the zoning map. Everything in white is outside of city limits. The tan is dwelling, which occupies most of this area. Dwelling Z. Here is the 200-foot radius map. There were 24 mailouts and 0 written protest. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use plan, and the Planning and Zoning Commission supports this rezoning from dwelling Z, DZ, to dwelling G, DG.
Anyone here on this issue?
I know this map like the back of my hand because that's the city line through my election. I could know this in my sleep.
Okay.
Motion to close public hearing?
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
Public hearing number 12, public hearing and action on first read on ordinance number 235-2019-022-CO to rezone from general retail G 4CG to apartment H AH-CO for Lot 4, Block 1, Mazo Commercial Park Subdivision, Cameron County, Texas, located at 7100 Via del Mar Circle.
So this property is currently zoned 4th Commercial G. They're asking it to be rezoned to Apartment H, and they have agreed to a conditional overlay as well, restricting the amount of units. So to the north, there's going to be commercial development and apartment. To the east, undeveloped land and commercial development. To the south, undeveloped land and apartment. And to the west, there's going to be commercial development and single-family dwelling. So here is the zoning map of the area. In this little subdivision, it's becoming more and more apartment. And then along East 14th Street, you're going to find retail uses and different commercial uses. There were 11 mailouts and 0 written protests. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan, and the Planning and Zoning Commission supports this rezone from general retail G 4CG to apartment H AH-CO with the conditional overlay to permit a maximum of 14 units.
Anyone here on this issue?
Motion to close public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
Public hearing number 13, public hearing and action on first read on ordinance number 235-2019-023 to rezone from general retail F 4CF to general retail H 4CH for the year half of lot 6, block 156, original town site of Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas, located at 1134 East 9th Street.
So this property is currently zoned general retail F, and they're requesting it to be changed to general retail H. To the north, there's going to be professional office and civic institution. You'll also find that to the east. To the south, there's going to be single-family dwelling and commercial development. And to the west, there'll be single-family dwelling, apartment, and professional offices. Here is the zoning map. As you can see, it is all general retail, 4th Commercial in this area. There were 14 mailouts and 0 written opposition. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan, and the Planning and Zoning Commission supports this rezoning from general retail F, 4CF to general retail H, 4CH.
Anyone here on this issue?
Would close public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item.
Public hearing number 14, public hearing and action on first read on ordinance number 235-2019-009-S to allow used car lot, a medium commercial 6C use in general retail F 4CF for Lot 4, Block 63 by this tract addition in addition to the City of Brownsville located at 1134 East Fillmore Street.
Here is the aerial of the property. To the east, there's going to be commercial business along the expressway. To the south, there's going to be single-family dwelling and commercial business. To the west, single-family dwelling. And to the north, there's going to be single-family dwelling, civic institution, and commercial businesses. Here is a zoomed-in picture. I wanted to point out the traffic lines extend past this property. Here's the zoning map. As you can see, most of this area is zoned 4th Commercial. Across the expressway, it is zoned for industrial use, and further down on this side of the expressway as well. There were 32 mailouts and 0 written opposition. Here is the site plan. Staff does not support this specific use permit to allow a used car lot in medium commercial 6C use in general retail general retail F, 4CF. Due to safety concerns, as I pointed out in the previous map, this lot is not accessible from the expressway. It is a Fillmore address and can only be accessed through Fillmore, which is a residential street. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan, and the Planning and Zoning Commission does not support this rezoning from dwelling from general retail F to allow a used car lot, a 6C medium commercial use. This is an appeal case, so it will require 6 votes in order to overturn the Planning and Zoning Commission.
We got 5 right now.
We're slightly short, but then again, we'll figure it out. So you need 6 votes to overturn this. Anyone here on this issue? Well, is Commissioner Tetro coming back, or she's gone for the day?
No, she's coming.
Does anybody want to go see if she's coming back anytime in the near future? Huh? Okay, well, good. Okay, now, the instructions would you go ahead and tell Commissioner Tetros is the Planning and Zoning did not approve it, and so to overturn them, all 6 of us have to
Vote.
agree, right?
Yes, to
So-
allow a used car lot, a 6C use in 4th Commercial. I can just run through it all if you want. Okay, so here is the aerial map. This is along near the expressway off Fillmore Street. To the north, there's single-family dwellings, civic institution, and commercial businesses. To the east, there's commercial businesses. To the south, single-family dwelling and commercial business, and to the west, single-family dwelling. Here is a close-up of the aerial. I wanted to point out that here is the traffic lines, making this property in question not have access to the expressway. It is off of Fillmore Street, which is a residential street. Here is the zoning map. Most of this area is zoned general retail F. Along the expressway, further down and across, there is industrial use district. There were 32 mailouts and 0 written opposition. Here is the site plan. Staff does not support the specific use permit to allow a used car lot, a medium commercial 6C use in general retail F, 4CF, due to safety concerns, such as the traffic that was pointed out. This request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan, and the Planning and Zoning Commission does not support the specific use permit to allow a used car lot, a 6C medium retail use in general retail F, 4CF.
Okay, and apparently nobody's here on this issue, so we'll have to have first a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Who to deny?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to deny is approved.
Thank you.
Next, we have the public comment period. No one signed up for public comment, so we'll go on to the next item, which is items for individual consideration. Action item number 16, consideration and action on resolution number 2019-029, to approve Brownsville Metro's Title VI program and the authorization for Brownsville Metro to submit the Title VI program to United States Department of Transportation, Federal Transit Administration.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioners. The United States Department of Transportation, through the Federal Transit Administration, requires all recipients of federal funds under 49 U.S.C. Chapter 53 to comply with the requirements and responsibilities of the Title VI regulations, 49 CFR Part 21, and to integrate into their programs and activities. FTA recipients are responsible for ensuring that all activities are in compliance by submitting a Title VI program to the assigned regional civil rights office every 3 years. Therefore, staff is recommending to approve the approval of the Title VI program revisions stipulated in your agenda packages as required by FTA to ensure this year's deadline is met.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 17.
Action item number 17, consideration and action to approve the City of Brownsville, Brownsville Metro, B Metro revised ADA policies and procedures, complimentary paratransit service plan revised in May 2019.
The complimentary paratransit service plan demonstrates that the City of Brownsville and Brownsville Metro shall not discriminate against an individual with a disability in connection with the provisions of public transportation services. Brownsville Metro staff, along with the Transit Advisory Committee, has reviewed the areas as stipulated in your agenda packages and request approval of revisions and inclusion into the ADA policies and procedures complimentary paratransit service plan as presented. Staff recommends approval.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank
Item
you.
18.
Action item,
Yes, and off topic, I just want to tell you, thank you. I've seen the hybrid buses rolling around, and the public is very excited.
Thank you.
action item number 18, consideration and action on resolution number 2019-032 to support and participate in a county-wide flood protection study funded partially by a grant from the Texas Water Development Board and commit to contribute $87,500 towards the local matching funds.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. We don't have a PowerPoint for this. I'll just say that there's a resolution in the works that we need to finalize with the City Attorney's Office, but what we're trying to do here is work collaboratively with Cameron County on a county-wide flood drainage study. I know that there have been other plans done before, some of those city, some of those county, but here is another opportunity. It's primarily grant funded. There's a 50-50 match. The 50% match from the county is being funded proportionally by the county and the different cities within the county. There is conversation between us and Cameron County on working regionally on issues of drainage and flood control. So this would be a starting point, and our share is roughly 19% of that proportional 50%, which is the $87,500.
Very good.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
City Manager, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Within those discussions, please make sure that when language is being discussed, that we try to overlook double taxation on the issues with Drainage District number 1 where we service, where we currently service right now, especially like in my area, where we revived our drainage district. Please just make sure that we protect the resident as that language is being drawn.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Action item number 19, consideration and action to acknowledge the city's comprehensive annual financial report, CAFR, for the fiscal year ended September 30th of 2018.
Lupe?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Commissioners. These items, I'm going to have Carlos Barrera, the lead auditor with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram, to present this item.
Good afternoon, or good evening. So for the next hour and 50 minutes, I'll be going through this entire book. Just kidding. So we're going to do this a little different than we did it before. I usually had a prepared speech, and I was in and out of here in 5 minutes, but we're going to try to get it in and out of here in 5 minutes as well. So what we're going to do is really just give you the highlights of what we did and how the financials look. You have this somewhere. It's 276 pages of just wonderful information, and it is a labor of love. Let me tell you, this takes a lot of work for the people that put it together, including my staff and all the Lupus staff. It is just, takes a lot of work. But anyway, let me just kind of go through it real quick. So this is what they call a comprehensive annual report. It's called a CAFR, and that's short for that. And so what it does, in effect, what we're presenting to you is that these financial statements are audited. They're audited in accordance with some auditing standards, governmental accounting standards. And so every year, you guys by city code have to have an external audit on the financial statements. And so you'll see on that first, you can follow along over there. Oh, and by the way, these were prepared by your staff, and they're very, very good. And so that's why we decided we'll just go with these. Again, these financial statements are prepared yearly. They are also submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association. It's called GFOA, and they get an award. This award is basically a reporting award. They compare you and the city and the financial statements to basically everybody else that's submitting the CAFRs, and it is a very high level of reporting responsibility that they put you to. So you've received this award for 42 years, which I think is the longest that I know of in the Valley for sure, of any entity receiving this type of award. So it's been around for a while, and you are going to submit it. It's already been submitted again for the 43rd year. So when you look at the structure of the CAFR, there's 3 sections to it. Actually, there's a little bit more. There's actually 5. But the first one is the introduction, which you'll see at the beginning. And then there's something called management discussion and analysis, which is that first box. And MD&A, which is what's called management discussion analysis, really just gives you an oversight in layman's terms as to what happened through the city for the year financially. What your goals were, what your budgets were. They compare it to prior years, things of that nature. But they do it in a much more simplistic view than trying to read through this other 270 some odd pages. So if you're going to do anything at all, that's what you need to concentrate on and read. And that's about pages 23 through 40 is where the MD&A is. Then there's the basic financial statements. And there are 3 sections to that. And you go from a 10,000-foot view all the way to a 2,000-foot view. So you look at government-wide financial statements, then the regular fund financial statements, and then finally the notes to the financial statements. And after that, there's required supplementary information and then statistical information as well. So that's how it goes across the board. So let's kind of view just the government-wide financials. Every time I've come here before you, I've usually centered in on the general fund. Most entities, most governmental entities, that's what they look at. But in reality, the general fund is only one fund. You've got a lot of funds. But that's where mainly all of your expenditures are located. Governmental funds are normally cash basis. And what that means is that you're not looking at accrual type based accounting. Government-wide, on the other hand, is a different way of looking at your financial statements. Government-wide financial statements they encompass all the funds, and then they also encompass it on an accrual-based system, which if you're an owner of a business, that's probably what you're looking at as accrual-based. Accounts receivable, accounts payable, notes payable, fixed assets, those kind of things are normally included as an overview, as a holistic kind of situation. So, why is that important? It's important for the bullets that you see before you. It serves as an indicator of overall financial health, gives you a bird's eye view of everything. During the current year, you'll notice that the net position, in effect your assets less your liabilities, decreased from $264 million to $257 million after a prior period adjustment of $34 million. I'll get to that a little later. Total assets and deferred outflows increased by another $2.4 million, and liabilities increased by another $9 million. Okay. Let's talk about the government-wide financials to begin with. And I am going to give you a little bit of introduction. If you look at your books, at your CAFR, and go to page 43, 44, and 45, this essentially is the government-wide financial statements of the city. Look at 44 and 45. It's not up here, so you'll have to look at it. And I want to kind of guide you as to how to read this. So you'll look on page 44 and you can see the way the government statement, the government-wide statement of activities are. You'll see that on the left, you'll see the primary government and you'll see functions and programs. And you'll see under governmental activities, you'll see categories like general government, public safety, public works, sanitation, and so forth. And then you'll see the business type activities a little further than that, which in effect are your business type funds, your airport, your parking revenue, your public transit. Those are business type enterprise funds. So how does this thing work? This is an income statement if you want to be brief. Well, let's just take public safety, that second line. It starts with expenses and it says, okay, public safety has a $65 million number for total expenses. The next issue is, how do you pay for that? So if you look at program revenues at the caption at the top, well, part of that $65 million was paid for by charges for services. Another $1.9 million came from operating grants and contributions. And as you go all the way to the right to the next page, you'll see that, well, that's nice, but you're still $52 million short. So that one piece of that government, of that area, in effect, you have to make up about $52 million somewhere to cover that. So as you go through all your governmental activities, you can see total is $138.9 million, but you fall $78 million short of covering it, other than from charges for services or grants or other types of revenues. So then where does that leave you? And you keep going over to the top, to the right. At the end of the day, you'll see both for the primary and the business type, you need about $82 million coming from somewhere to make up the shortfall. And that's where the bottom piece comes from. Well, you're going to get 44 million of that from general property taxes. Okay, another 28 million from sales taxes, and then and so forth. You'll see 327,000 from mixed drink taxes, bingo taxes, hotel motel taxes at 1.5. So 76 million is going to be used for that shortfall. And in the current year, though, you still fell short $6 million. So what this gives you is a better view as a governing body, and not to only look at the general fund as your whole source of being. It's not. It's everything. And this is why this type of analysis is good, because governing bodies need to know that there are a lot more issues at hand than what happens through the general fund. And what this fund, or this government-wide statement does, is bring that to your attention as the decision makers of this community. So that's the income statement. And if you flick back over to page 43, that's your whole balance sheet. You know, your assets and your liabilities. And you'll see primary government, governmental funds, business type activities, and a total. The last two are your component entities. The biggest one being the PUB, because the PUB's information also has to be included but separated. Okay? And you can see all the way down something called net position, and that is your excess of liabilities, or I'm sorry, assets against your liabilities. And so at the end of the year, you'll see the third column under total, that you look at net position, you had $257,997,000 of net position. $341 million is invested in capital assets. Another $6 million in debt service restrictions, another $26 in capital project restrictions, and then you see this glowing negative of $115,802,000 as unrestricted. That's a deficit. That's a deficit. Now, I don't want to scare you. It's nothing new. It was a deficit last year too, and the year before. But what I'm trying to convey to you is that there is some real issues here that you need to probably be concerned with as you progress onward in the future years. A lot of this stuff is just real time. What does the city look like? A snapshot right now. At this point, it was September 30th. So if you're going back to the government-wide financial statements, now back to this, if you look at your government-wide net position over a 14-year history, you can see in 2005, it was 85 million, but then all of a sudden, this thing called GASB 34 came into play. GASB is short for Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They're the ones that put out the standards on how to report certain things. And so every year, every couple of years, they come up with some brilliant stuff, some of which very difficult to understand and sometimes to implement. But in that year, GASB 34 came out, and GASB 34 actually created this. It actually created this government-wide stuff. And so when they did that, all your assets that were in a separate fund all of a sudden had to be included in a total fund. And that's the reason why all of a sudden, boom, it went up to 401 million. And then you can kind of see the progression until you get to GASB 68 implementation. 68 implementation was the pension plan. And all of a sudden now we had to document and put down as a liability what the expected liability would be to the city as a result of pensions. You know, your actual pensions that you were liable for. And then GASB 75 came about, and that was this year. And as I said earlier, you had a $30-something million adjustment to the beginning balance of net position downward because of the implementation of 75. And 75 dealt with OPEB. If you don't know what OPEB is, you're going to be real familiar with it really soon. It's other post-employment benefits. Now, what is that? Those are the benefits that you provide your employees once they hit retirement age, 20 years and 55, or sometimes it's less. And that is basically your health insurance. And what this is, it measures actuarially what the city is obligated to pay eventually for those people who have retired and how much that's going to cost the city. That is very contingent on a lot of information, but again, that is what that's supposed to measure. So in the current year, we had a fairly large adjustment. This also can be found on page 21, and that's, I'm sorry, note 21 on page 130, kind of explains it also. Now the net pension liability, we talked a little bit earlier about that. At September 30th, it was about 38 million, which is a decrease of 23 million from September of the prior year. Again, that's primarily related to investment increase. All these are contingent upon market forces. You know, if interest rates go up, interest rates go down, mortality, there's all kinds of information that has to be thrown in. And every 2 years, you get somebody to come in here, an actuary to come in here and kind of test the waters and find out what in effect it should be. And that's how it works. But that's what this year, it actually went to your benefit. So you did have a net pension liability at the beginning of the year of 61 million. And in effect, it now reduces down to about $38 million. But then 75, which is, I just mentioned, OPEB. And so all of a sudden, here comes this new pronouncement that was really a very difficult pronouncement for all municipalities to implement. In fact, a lot of municipalities did not get their GFOA reports out on time, simply because of the implementation issues associated with this particular GASB statement. But again, this one required, as I said, these things were already in the footnotes of the financial statements for several years, but now GASB, the board, all of a sudden decided, no, you got to put them in the financial statements. That number is no longer just a footnote that somebody may or may not read. You need to put them in the financials, you need to show them that's there, and you need to make sure that the readers fully understand what it means. So in effect, that's what happened in regards to the current year. That last paragraph, it says, as a result of that, the liability now was about $58,741,000, and it caused a decrease in the net position of about 34. We had the change in the current year was about 34 million, which is it's a $58 million total adjustment, but 34 of that was the beginning balance adjustment, and that had to be hit along all the funds, and all the funds took a hit on that with respect if they had any kind of salary breakdown. It's fun stuff, isn't it? Okay. I think we've hit this one. This one's an interesting one. I don't know why it's coming out kind of crooked, but anyway. The beginning OPEB, as I said, was a 52 million, and then you see this net change in OPEB liability of 5 million for the current year. If you measured just what the actuary said was going to happen in the current year, there was a $5 million increase just in the current year. Now, everything's staying the same. They also said that that may happen again this fiscal year, another $5 million. But again, that is very much contingent upon a lot of stuff. Actuary, science, determines what that's going to happen, the discount rate, what our administration in Washington does with the Fed rate, and the types of benefits in effect that you will provide those retirees. There's a lot of things a commission can do to mitigate some of the issue here. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a year or two, but I think what it does, it brings to light that if this thing continues to increase and climb, then as policymakers for the city, you all need to grapple with it and determine whether or not how far can the city go before it really is going to have a big problem. That's one of the major issues. And a lot of municipalities have really taken this and said, well, wait a minute, where are we going with this, and can we handle this, or do we need to make adjustments? And that could be a variety of issues. I mean, it's too numerous to mention. As far as the governmental fund financials, this is the ones that are now more detailed. Now we're talking about the government-wide, and now we're talking about the governmental funds. In effect, those are just the current stuff, the information, what we're going to use for the near term. Again, the general fund is your biggest one, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, which I'm almost there, but that's basically on a cash basis. You'll notice that the city maintains about 22 individual governmental funds. It's a fairly good amount, and they have about $49.5 to $62 million. That's how much, in effect, the balance of all these funds have increased in the current year. You'll see that the fund balances for 18 and 17 before you can see that the non-spendable, restricted, committed, and assigned increased from 33 million to 39.8 million. And the unassigned, which is in effect the kind of the free and clear, went from 16 million to 22.9 million. It's about a $13 million increase. The general fund balances, again, you can see over a period of the last 10 years, has been said, you've seen a gradual increase. The blue, in effect, is the restricted. Again, that's all contingent upon what your restrictions are for debt service, things of that nature. And then the gray, in effect, is your unassigned. Over the total on the top, 17 billion back in 2009 to right now, it's about 30.9 million in fiscal year 2018. Okay. The increase in fund balances, again on the general fund, there's a couple of bullet points of why. You've had increase in property taxes over this last year of about 1.1 million. You had higher sales tax revenue of about another 1.1, almost 1.2 million. You had increased revenues from fees and services of almost $500,000. You had an additional 1.7 million cash transfer from PUB. And you had about a $5.5 million reduction in your budgeted expenditures for on your general fund for the year. So again, at the end, your general fund unassigned fund balances increased by 1.8 million overall. Your government-wide net position decreased by decreased from 264 to 257. Again, primarily because of the beginning prior year adjustment. And your OPEB liability right now is sitting at 58.7 million. Part of this CAFR also includes the single audit. You all have governmental grants. It's in excess of 750,000. As a result of that, we also do a compliance audit, which is in and of itself a totally separate audit and as complicated as it can be. But it does ring bells all over the place because in effect you get a lot of revenue from the feds and from the state. Suffice to say, in the current year, you have a clean slate. We didn't have any exceptions. And so that looks really good, and that's what we want to see. And I think that's all I have, except Lupa's got more. And then you can go home and go to sleep. This is really good stuff.
Thank you.
Just wanted to add a couple items. In preparing for the budget process, presenting the CAFR, some of the items like he highlighted. The main one that we're going to be looking at is the OPEB, health insurance promises to retirees. There's a lot of factors that go into the actuary calculations, discount rates, health healthcare trends, items, various items, but one of the items that we do have control is on the healthcare plan design that we offer, our healthcare plan that we offer to the employees. That's just something that we need to look at, see if there's changes that we want to do. Other items to consider, employee compensation and fleet and facilities replacements that we need to start considering when starting the budget for 2020.
Thank
Take
you.
care of the employees, man. Remember that one day you're gonna retire, and everybody in this room is gonna retire. And as we get older and our illnesses start coming in,
Those are the challenges
make
that
sure
we
that you
have.
and the committee keep, I know that you have to come back with your fiduciary duties and with the numbers in the correct order, but realize this affects people in real life.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And just to make a comment, Mayor, Commissioners, I'd be remiss to not speak on the audit, and I've, been here all of 5 months. But just to reiterate to the public, if you look at the fund balance, right, the snapshot, we're fiscally healthy. I think the concern and what the auditor pointed out, and we're having these discussions on the growth and development side, the whole land use sustainability, that is connected to this. Because one of the things that you all maybe didn't see there, or it wasn't brought up, but that trend, when the assets, now as a public sector entity, we can't sell our streets to make money off of them. So you account them as an asset, but are they really a liquid asset? So what you're seeing there is the aging. I mean, it's depreciation, right? It's the book value loss of your infrastructure. So streets aren't getting newer, sidewalks aren't getting newer, drainage isn't getting better, it's aging. So you're seeing the aging of our infrastructure. As you saw in the land use presentation, we hit the growth wave when all the development was shiny and new, and then 20, 30, 40 years later, it begins to age and it needs some love. It needs some reinvestment. And then you add up the pensions, which the pension and the OPEB, really, it's like your street, the 1.3 billion being put before you in the land use presentation, it's the same parallel. So fiscal sustainability with regard to growth and development also applies with regard to our fiscal, right, our operation. So part of what we'll do this year is, it won't be ready for this budget year, but we will start a 5-year forecast. We're doing more, taking the 1-year budget, making it into a 2-year, 3-year, and ultimately a 5-year, and run you all through some scenarios of what do we see coming down the pipe, similar to what you see in the audit, so that we can make tweaks now versus the painful ones 5, 10 years down the road, when that number becomes a ticking time bomb, right? So we're proactively looking at this. We're gonna make some of these changes all in the name of fiscal health. But it's all about growth too. Growth, you'll see in the next presentation here, our mid-year report. Growth can do a lot to help fund some of this, but what can growth really do? And we need to manage growth and make sure that growth is helping us pay the bills for services, but also reinvestment into our infrastructure. I hear streets a lot. Well, as we look at our budget year over year, how much discretionary dollars do we have? Because some of these pensions and some of these OPEB items, those are commitments that we have. So when your budget comes in and your new revenue, your net raw growth comes in, some of that's already taken. It's already spelled out and called for. So what do we really have to invest into our capital program and stuff like that? So we're going to run through these traps. We don't want to create a situation where we kick the can down the road and then you make the situation worse. But it's not doom and gloom. It's really GASB causing us to be disciplined and to be focused about the long-term fiscal health. So I'll be quiet now.
Motion to acknowledge.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next, we
Thank you,
have
Carlos, appreciate it. Good job.
action item number 20, consideration and action to acknowledge the financial statements and cash investment report for the city of Brownsville for the second quarter ended March 31st, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I'm kidding.
Man, I'm tempted.
We're all joking, just kidding, Lupe.
I'll be brief for this, it'll just be 3 slides to highlight.
Just tell us the ending.
Mr. Ray, I'm just as far as I can go today. So if you would, somebody be Mayor Pro Tem, that's as far as I can go, guys. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Okay.
I hope you feel better, Mayor.
This is unofficial non-audited financials for mid-year or second quarter ending March 31st. I'll go over the financial highlights. Tax levies are being healthy. They're about the same, slightly higher than last year. Sales tax is above fiscal year numbers by 6.8% or 961,000. We're about 4.5% or 659,000 over budget projections through date. Unemployment rate is down 5.6%. Based on receipts through February for this fiscal year, Veterans Bridge revenues have increased 23.9%. One of these, this is an item that we need to look at because with the delays in the bridge, this might be an issue. We need to monitor the next months going forward. Utility expenditures are about level. Building permits have increased. That's an item that Mr. Bernal had mentioned about growth. We're up 120% for the same period last fiscal year. The primary is primarily due to new commercial and residential permits. Items of concern are items to be looking out for: hotel motel taxes, about 36,000 less than the same period as last year. And PUB cash transfer for the same period is down 354,000. Nothing to be very alarmed about this. These last 3 years, they've actually transferred more than their budget, so it's just an item of caution. That concludes the presentation.
Want to acknowledge?
Motion to, all those in favor?
Aye.
Want to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Move to adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.